A lot of y'all say I'm ready for the day. That's what's up, man. I'm currently protecting my peace. Excuse me. Lips are dry. Protecting my perspective. Protecting my life. And, being up here at the top of this mountain, it's quiet up here. You can hear ain't nobody really up here, especially this time of day. It's a little windy today, so I'm sitting like in this little pocket to block the wind. But it's less crowded, excuse me. It's less crowded. And I realized the higher you go with your life, the less crowded it becomes. And as I was sitting here thinking, like, I really wish I could just land here, just like skip the process and just be here at the top of the mountain. But I've done that before. Like, I've been to places where, sorry, my lips are like super chapped. I don't have no water, so my lips are dry. So who cares? But I've been to places where, whether it's a helicopter ride or whatever, that you can just, get dropped off at the top of something and you can see a beautiful view. But it's just not the same, man. And I realized, and I have a message to tie all this in, I realized that even though I hate the climb, I love the climb. Because when I get here, it's more of a reward. Because I knew I went through it and able to get to a place that a lot of people don't want to get at. And this is not just talking about climbing mountains, right? Like the physical, but this is about climbing mountains in your life. And the only way you can get to your peak is if you decide to climb. And that's why I titled this message, It's on You. Like, nobody woke me up this morning besides God. Nobody told me to come out here and climb this hard hike. Nobody told me to do anything. I wanted to do it because I knew at the end of the struggle was going to be something very rewarding. And it's the same with your life. A lot of you guys are waiting on people to give you permission to be great. A lot of you are waiting, even if you're waiting for me, a lot of you are waiting for someone to tell you to take your life to the next level. A lot of you are waiting for someone to tell you you can do it. A lot of you are waiting for someone to support you. And I get it. I've been there. But I just want to tell you this and be clear. Some of you are going to be waiting your whole entire life. There has to come a point when you look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? The only way I'm going to get to my peak is if I start climbing. And you know what? When I first climbed this mountain, if you know my story with Camelback, I didn't make it to the top. I didn't. It was hard. But that motivated me. That failure motivated me. It motivated me to get in better shape. It motivated me to take care of my health. And I promised myself every time I would come back out here, no matter how I felt, I would always make it to this peak. And now I'm making it to the peak in like record times. But it took me keep coming back. But it took me taking responsibility over my life. And, that's been my message so much since I started Rehab Time. It all starts with you. But I want you guys to really take that responsibility over your life and realize, like, what if we don't know what to do anymore? Pray for clarity, right? And I would ask you, what persuaded that perspective? Like, there was a point in time in your life where you know what you wanted to do. Maybe it's not about what you want to do. Maybe it's about how you want to feel. Let's focus on that. In my life, I didn't know where I wanted to go with Rehab Time or anything like that. I just knew how I wanted to feel. I knew what I didn't want anymore in my life. I knew where I didn't want to stay with my life. So a lot of us have these goals of, some of us think we can't move until we have goals of where we want to go. How about you create goals of where you don't want to be, what you don't want to accept in your life? How do you want to feel? That's more important than anything. How do you want to feel? So I start my day off every single day. Like, I started my morning off with this because I knew this is going to give me a conquering mindset throughout the day. And so I think a lot of times our questions are wrong when we ask ourselves certain things when we feel stuck. So I want you to understand that it's on you. So tonight, right, I've been pushing this so hard, and some of you might be tired of it, and some of you probably heard me push this for a week and 2 weeks, and I'm going to continue to push it because I know the value that I bring to people's life. I know how much I care. Like, I know. And at the end of the day, you're going to be influenced by something in this world. And if it's going to be anything, I want you to be influenced by me. Because I know that I'm going to influence positivity in your life. I'm going to influence peace in your life. You know, a lot of us, we're influenced by the world every single day. We're influenced by negativity. We're influenced by things that don't move us forward. Because a lot of you, you know, you've been putting in work for years, and this is the year. And I know you hear this a lot, people say that, but for some of you, with the right mindset, right, with the right taking the right responsibility with your life, this year is the year that changes in your life, right? This is the year that hits that tipping point. This is the year that things finally start to show. This is the year that you reap your harvest. This is the year that those flowers start to blossom after all the seeds you've been planting, right, in your life. So if you're still above ground, if you're still trying, then guess what? You're progressing. And we all know life is about progression. Like I said, the first time I got out here, I couldn't climb this mountain. But you see where I'm at now, right? The top. Life, bro. Like, it's no secret. It's life. Life teaches you all the time, you know, through failure, through other people's experience, through my experience. Like, if you just pay attention to life teaches you, you know. With my mindset, I look at life differently, right? My perspective is different. I now look at life in a way of, okay, how can this grow me? How can this make my life better? And a lot of people don't look at life like that, right? A lot of people live in defeat instead of living in a power perspective. And so I look at life all the time, like, how can this make me better, right? What is this saying to me? Okay, how can this move me forward? How can it make the lives around me better? And so, like, knowledge is all around you. But the thing about knowledge, to be real with you, the point is, it's not about what you know, it's about what you apply. A lot of you know a lot of things. The things I tell you, most of you know about, right? If you sit down and think about it, I'm not telling you nothing from Mars. But the problem is that a lot of us, we don't know how to apply knowledge, or we don't have the perseverance or the mindset to apply knowledge. We don't want to go through the struggle, is what I was talking about today, right? We want to get to the top of the mountain, but we don't want to climb. We don't want to climb. So even the other time, you remember I got stung by a bee on this same mountain, it's still right there, but I kept climbing. And a lot of us, we get stung by things in life, things don't go right, and we stop climbing. We go back down. We put in a whole bunch of work, and then we go back down. Not me. Like, even if I got to pause for a second, I'm not going back down. I'm going to regather myself, and I'm going to keep climbing. Why are toxic people so influential to us? I believe it's because we don't really know who we are. A lot of times, if it's someone toxic, it means we were connected to them. And we probably were first connected to them not on a toxic level. It was probably something that was pleasurable. It was probably something that was great. And over time, that person became toxic, right? And so, or that situation became toxic. And at that point, you're addicted. And when you're addicted to something, it's hard to let go of, right? It's not just as simple as like, okay, well, let me walk away. But you got to have some systems in place in your life to be able to walk away from certain things. So I feel like a lot of times, or we're so used to the pain. Some people don't know how to operate their life without pain. Even though they don't want it, it like makes them feel alive, right? Drama, conflict, like makes them feel alive. And they're addicted to it subconsciously. And so that involves changing your environment. That involves knowing yourself on a deeper level and really understanding how you want to feel with your life, right? You know, that's the thing. That's why I always tell you, man, you got to know who you are as best as you can. Like, you got to be selfish. Like, it's not selfish to be selfish. And I use that word, I say that word because I want it to really like sit with you. You know, I usually wouldn't say the word selfish because it's a negative thing people take with that. But like, that's why I say you have to know yourself. You have to love yourself first. You have to set the tone for your life. And when you treat yourself at a high level, I'm not saying at a conceited level, but when you treat yourself at a high level, you take care of your life. Like, you really practice self-care. You then know, like, when somebody isn't, when somebody isn't meeting your standards. And a lot of times we don't treat ourselves good at all. We treat ourselves like crap, and we either settle for less, or, we allow our voids to be controlled by other people's promises, right? Like I said, a lot of times in life, we put ourselves in situations because it's good to us at the moment. But like I always say, just because it looks good, seems good, feels good, doesn't mean it's good for your life. And I'm just at a point now in my life, I don't even want good in my life. I want great. I want phenomenal. I don't want good. I don't, because I feel like a lot of people in this world settle for good, and nothing wrong with that, but I don't want good. I don't want to be average, and I'm not just talking about with myself, but just everything around me. I don't want my relationships just to be good. I don't want my, my purpose just to be good and okay. Like, I want to reach the greatest, like I do, because when you don't, it's like a lot of people are unfulfilled in life, they might be happy, but they're unfulfilled. It's because they haven't pushed themselves past mediocre, right? They haven't pushed themselves past their comfort zone in different areas of your life. And so I just like to get around people, man, who want phenomenal. And once you get phenomenal, once you experience phenomenal, you don't want nothing else. We have to change the conversation when it comes to that. Like, it's okay to take care of you. It's okay to not take, and I mean, of course, we got to take care of our children. Like, don't take that as we neglect. Not talking about that at all. But you shouldn't neglect yourself, right? At the expense of making other people feel fulfilled, because eventually you will have nothing to give. And guess what? When you don't have nothing to give, there's nothing people can receive from you at that point. So, like, now, this is me taking care of myself. This is self-care. This is me spending time alone. This is me, being appreciative, thanking God, connecting with God. Like, my alone time is very important, because when I come back to together time, I'm a whole different person. I'm more focused, more engaged. A lot of times when we go through situations, we automatically focus on we're weak or we're incapable because we're struggling. Nah, to get to the top of this mountain, I struggled. But guess what? There's a lot of people who won't even climb, right? They're not struggling at all because they don't push themselves, right? They surrender. And by you struggling, by you trying to get out your situation, and I want to be clear, I'm not talking about just accepting struggle and standing in struggle, the same struggle, but life throws mountains at you, man. You get to one peak, there's another one. Don't always be focused on the peak. Like, when I climb these mountains, I don't never, like, I pretty much put my head down. I never really look up at the peak, because sometimes you can look up at the peak and you get very discouraged. Like, if I'm looking out there at that peak, I'm like, man, there's no way I can climb that. But if I just focus on the next step, I focus on what I can control, eventually, I know if I just keep moving forward, eventually I'll get to that peak. And guess what? There's going to be another mountain to climb. But in climbing these mountains, like in life and in, like, in your personal life, it gives you strength and confidence, right? Because you've overcame. God has helped you, give you the strength to overcome the mountains in your life. When God says, you can move that mountain by just having faith of a mustard seed, man. Just think about that. It takes a little bit of faith. A little bit of faith. And there's no mountain that you can't conquer. But I would just tell you, the first thing I would tell you is to focus on where you don't want to be, right? To face that reality. Like, what don't you want in your life? Like, that's where I would tell you to start, because you can control that immediately. You control what you don't want in your life, right? And I would start with that, and I would work on that part of it, okay? Because if it doesn't matter how I tell you to get anywhere, if you're carrying the same baggage that's been weighing you down, then guess what? You're never going to be fulfilled when you get to that new destination, because the same baggage is still there. And my best thing, man, is just like, I just feel like God blesses you. Like, God blesses you in so many different ways. It might not be from the people you give to, but it works out in just other ways. Like, it might be a raise at your job. It might be, just the simplest things that you overlook because you're waiting for somebody to give you something back in return. And you have to realize that too, right? It's like, if you keep giving to a person that never gives you anything back, and like that's a person that's close to you, you got to understand that. And you know who they are, so you can choose to keep giving to them, or you can choose to say, you know what, I'm going to give to somebody who really appreciates it and who really needs it. But change is hard. Any change is hard. But you know what? Staying in struggle is harder. Staying in pain is harder. I tell people that all the time. That's the perfect, like, leverage in your life. Like, when people say it's hard, Trent, like, change is hard, it's hard. I'm like, it can't be no harder than keeping your life where it's at. It can't be. Like, I'd rather go through a temporary pain, a temporary uncomfort zone, than staying in a permanent uncomfort zone. That's just me. Yeah, I think sometimes we focus, like I said, it's like what I talked about earlier about the peak. Sometimes we're so focused on the peak that if we don't get there, we think that we failed. Nah, like, detach yourself from the outcome, because sometimes we think that it has to be perfect, or we think that, if this doesn't happen, then we're not making progress in our life, or we're not growing. That's not true. I know that personally. So I just give my best every single day. I try to give my best every single day. And sometimes the best is whack. Sometimes the best doesn't look great. Sometimes the best sucks. But you know what? I can close my eyes every night and say, you know what, I tried though. I got better today. And the days that I didn't get better, I own it and I make sure my tomorrow is different. And I just keep living life and progressing. That's what life is about. Let's get it.